All right, guys, today I want to go over how I personally train myself and also how I train my clients. So I use this 5-step method that's been proven to work. And in this video, I'm going to break down each of those steps and explain in a little bit more detail. All right, so you can see to the side of me here, we have learn to move, we have tempo or a work capacity phase, we have a hypertrophy phase, we have a strength phase, and finally, we have a peaking phase. Alright guys, so let's start with learn to move. So it sounds simple, but before we need to lift heavy, we need to understand how to move our body in the proper way. Now, sometimes I only run learn to move for 2 weeks. Depends on the capability of the person that I'm training. Sometimes we need to spend a little more time, or sometimes it's a little less. So in the learn to move is when we are using a moderate weight with a moderate rep range. So usually between the 4 to 8 rep range and not super heavy. This is so that we can work on form and make sure it's absolutely perfect before we start pushing a bunch of load and having a higher risk of injury. Now, a lot of the times people come to me and say that the first month of lifting isn't super intense and it's not that hard. And that's okay, because we're learning how your body reacts to working out and also making sure, again, that your form is okay. Lifting is really about longevity. So if you lift for 1 month and let's say you push yourself to the max, but then you have an injury and you can't do anything, that's basically going to do nothing for you. So you're better off taking that first month, learning how to lift properly with good technique, then start pushing the weight and be able to work out for a long time. And after our first month of learn to move, we now move on to a tempo or a work capacity phase. So now that our form has gotten better, we want to start increasing the amount of workload we're putting on our body. We're going to do this by staying in that moderate rep range again, but this time, while we're using the weights, we're going to do a 3 to 5 second eccentric depending on the lift. Like I said, this is going to help build up our overall work capacity so that when we progress into the next phase, we're able to push super hard. And of course, while we are doing this tempo work, we may see some flaws in your form that we can address at this time. Now we're going to move on to the hypertrophy phase. So now with all that new work capacity that we build up, we are going to push hard and to failure with a lot of our lifts, working in a little bit higher of a rep range, around 10 or so. So a lot of the times I get people asking then, are we building muscle in our work capacity phase or no? The answer is yes, of course we are. We are still pushing hard and progressing each week. It's just at the same time while we're trying to build that muscle, we're also working on other attributes of lifting and increasing our skill. Okay, so now we are in the strength phase. So in this phase, we're cutting back the reps, going back to a lower rep range. This is also going to be pushing near failure. We're just going to be in a lower rep range and pushing a little bit more weight. All right, so there's some really awesome benefits working in a lower rep range and pushing heavier weight, but the reason that we can't do this earlier is because of form reasons and injury risk. But now that we've been lifting for 3 months, our form should be absolutely perfect, meaning that we're completely safe to work with these heavy loads. All right, and the last phase is a peaking phase. We now have the option to spend 4 weeks prepping for a 1 rep max. You could also prep for a 3 rep max. It's a little bit safer than pushing all the way till a 1 rep max. Your chance of injury is a little lower. Now, you don't have to peak necessarily. You could go back into a work capacity phase and work up from there. But I think it's pretty fun to test your 1 rep max. And yeah. All right, so let's do a little recap here. We have a learn to move. We have a tempo work capacity phase. We have a hypertrophy phase, a strength phase, and a peaking phase. This is exactly how I train myself, and this is how I program my clients. It's been proven to work. I have great results in myself and my clients. If you guys are interested in getting my online coaching, I'll put a link in my description here where you guys can fill out an application.